Hi everyone, this is Veronica with So It Seems, and welcome back to my studio. Today from the Dear Jane quilt book, we are going to be making block L-4, also called St. George's Cross. When we look at the breakdown of this block, it is a relatively simple block. One of the things that I'm never quite sure why Brenda Papadakis does this or not, on some of these pieces, we'll take this one for example. There is a center square here, and then we've got strips that come around. Generally, whenever you're piecing pieces on a block or on a quilt, you would have two sides that are short. So we'd look at, this is a short one here, then we'd have the same size on that side, and then we would piece the opposite sides. And that's exactly what Jane did here. She's got two short strips and then two long strips. I am not sure why Brenda decided to have one short strip and then do a side strip here and then a side strip on the side and then a long strip. That means that we're going to have three different sizes when we could have just two sizes for opposite sides there and two sizes for opposite sides there. I'm going to be giving you measurements of pieces that are going to coincide with the way that Jane did her block. It's not a big change, but it's enough to where it irritates me. Just change your line of where you have it. Anyway, to start this block, I'm going to give you some sizes, and then I'll show you kind of how we're going to do that piece by piece. For our center, this square is going to be cut at 2 inches. It's 1.5 inches finished, but we need a 2-inch square. Now, when we're working with these very narrow strips, we're going to need to be just precise in our piecing so that we can get these nice narrow strips. So our center square is 2 inches, and then our strips, we're going to have 2 strips that are 3¼ inches wide and 2 inches long, and then 2 strips, which are going to be the full length of this little square. They're going to be 3¼ inches wide by 2½ inches long. So that will be our first step. Let me show you the fabric I'm using today. For my main focus fabric, I'm using this very adorable blue fabric that has all of these little boys and girls on bicycles and little dogs. So that's going to be my main focus fabric. And as always with my blocks, my background is going to be my muslin fabric. I have my pieces for the very center of this block, and I've laid them out so you can kind of see the layout of how I'm going to be putting those together. So I have my center block and my 2 shorter strips. I'll be sewing those together, and then I'll press those open, and then I'll be able to sew these side seams together. Here's what the very center of this little block will look like, and this unit will measure 2½ inches square. Now let's take a look at the 4 corner units that we're going to be making. Each of the units has a center square out of the foundation fabric, and that needs to be cut at 1½ inches. Each of these units also needs a strip. So the strip, one of them needs to be 3/4 inch wide and 1½ inches long. So that's going to line up right with your square that you cut out. And then the second one that you sew on after these two is going to be 3/4 inch wide by 1¾ inch. Now you're going to need 4 of these, and you can sew them all the same way. You'll just be turning them and rotating them to be the correct orientation within the block. You can now see how the little corner unit looks once it's sewn together. Do that 3 more times and you will have 4 of these corner units. Now all the parts are done and we can start putting our block together. I've laid out all the little pieced sections. So I have my center block that we have already pieced and each of the corner units. And you'll want to turn your corner units so that your background fabric is outlining the block toward the center. So we have our background facing in toward the middle of the block all around. And we just need to have our final 4 pieces cut. These are easy pieces. Out of your foundation fabric, cut 4 rectangles that are 2.5 by 1 3/4 of an inch. And they will go into each of these spots here. So now we have everything laid out in the right order, and you can just start stitching them. So I'm going to stitch into a row on each of these. So I'll have 3 units, and once I sew those 3 rows, then I will sew the rows together. Each row is completed, so now we just simply sew the rows together. One thing to keep in mind as you're pressing your pieces, I pressed my center one so that my seams went out, and then I pressed my ends here so that the seam went in, and that will just help to reduce the bulk when I'm sewing these seams together. So let's get these all sewn together. Once I sewed those 3 rows together, I pressed the block and then gave it just a little bit of a trim. It just needed just evening up a little bit. And now the block is finished. I hope you enjoyed the walkthrough of making this block L-4, also called St. George's Cross. This one was a pretty quick block, but if you have any questions or if there's something that I went too quickly over, go ahead and give me a comment down below, or you can send me an email at sewitseamscreations@outlook.com. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And if you like this kind of content, you can go ahead and subscribe to my channel and click that notification bell, and you will be notified each time I upload a video, which is every Monday. This is Veronica Johnson with Sew It Seams, and I'll see you next time.